Hello everyone, I'm Two-Faced Teller, but you can call me V, and welcome to Night Shift. This is a submission to Spooktober, the 3rd annual visual novel jam by DevTalk. Line log. I called my ex, but I don't think what picked up was her. Content warning. Violence, language, suggestive themes, and the pop of my water bottle. The night shift is lonely. Emo, deer, and a rat, mouse, hamster. God's sake, answer your damn phone for once in your life, man. Congratulations, you've reached Dexter and he's busy. Leave a message and I'll try to keep you in mind. Beep. God damn it, Dex. Listen, stay away from Ursamart and stay away from Ember. This isn't a joke. It's honestly hard to explain without sounding like I'm crazy, but you need to get as far away from here as possible. If you're still, don't bother trying to come back. Sigh. I'm sorry for being such an asshole. I love you, man. Click. Damn it. Hey Dex, or whoever else is listening to this. Feels weird doing this like I'm reading off a script before I get executed by terrorists or something. The execution part might not be too far off actually, but if I do, My name is Timber Rowe. I'm a cashier at Ursamart, a local convenience store on the edge of... It's a small town and most of the customers are people just passing through. The kind of place you wouldn't normally think twice about. The only real thing of note is the old cell tower and the urban legends surrounding it. Nobody really took it seriously at the time, but... It all started last week. Maybe it started a long time ago. Something happened to Dexter, a friend of mine and another cashier at Ursamart. He and Nugget, another high school friend, normally take the night shift, and I used to be with Mrs. Gosberg on the day. Nice old lady. Things were normal, but come Wednesday, Dex just up and vanished. Not a word to anyone. I know he always hated working there, especially the night shift, but I didn't think he'd just end up and quit like that without telling anyone. I mean, I know we're not close anymore, but still. It was weird. I knew what was coming next, though. I got a call from the boss that same evening on my way home from my shift. Bambi, you're working tonight. Dexter's playing hide and seek, so you gotta take over until we get someone new. Gus, come on. You want the bird woman to work at night? She has 3 kids and her husband's dead. Have a heart, Bambi. I knew there was no way Gus would make Miss Gosberg take the night shift. She seemed like the kind of lady who'd be afraid of the dark. And don't think of suggesting little Nugget work alone. He's so tiny. How's he to fight off thieves on his own? Well, what are those antlers on your head for, son? Is that how you want your friend to die? 4 years later, and Gus still knew how to play me like a damn fiddle. You're a good boy, Bambi. Don't let me down. It's not like I had any night plans other than talking with Ember anyway, but having to work with Nugget could get awkward. We were all close back in high school 4 years ago, but that felt like a long time ago. I dropped her a text before heading out. Guess who's stuck on the night shift? Courtesy of Dex or something like that. It'd be a little while before I got any response. I turned on the radio and cycled through the mostly distorted and static-riddled stations before I settled on the usual local phone-in one. I wasn't really paying attention. It was mostly to keep my mind distracted. Sorry, classes ran a little late today. And don't pout so much, it's not like you don't stay up all night anyway. Fair point. You do like to talk. Huh. Haha. Ember is or was probably the only person from school I was still on good terms with. Hell, probably one of my only friends in general. She was at university a few towns over, but we still kept in touch every now and then. You going to be alright driving at night? I know you have that thing. As long as the asses on the road keep their bright lights off. Their brights off. I'll probably be alright, probably. Timber. It was always nice to hear her voice, even if the connection was absolute ass. It made the half-hour drive to the edge of town a lot less dull. I bid Ember farewell as I saw Ursa Mart come into view. When I arrived, the parking lot in the front of the shabby old convenience store was empty aside from one other car. I parked a few spaces away from my only neighbor, a beat-up Beetle that's all too familiar. I took one more quick look around as the sun quickly disappeared from sight, obscured by the trees at the end of the lot before I turned my attention back to the car. I found myself remembering all the times my friends and I crammed into the back seat of the tiny old thing over the years. A damn biohazard, but an oddly reassuring sight. It was kind of like a forgotten relic, frozen in time, right down to the stack of magazines piled onto the driver's seat. I couldn't help but laugh. At least that was one thing that hadn't changed. For a moment I swore someone was peering at me from the inside of the store. When I got inside, the fluorescent light sheared my retina at first, but when they refocused, the store looks to be abandoned save for an empty bag of chips and a pile of manga on the checkout counter accompanied by its owner. Is it really, worth it to keep your convenience store open if, no one really comes in at night? Is Nugget saying hi to themselves? Yo, Nugget. You're really going to make me go through this? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Didn't see you there. Are you new here? The liquor's on aisle 3. So that was how it was going to be, huh? I knew he'd be difficult, but I walked over to the counter and inspected Nugget's literature. All hentai. Can't believe he'd read this out in public like that. You still read this? It's been ass since we were in high school, man. Now that's cold, Mr. Rowe. Very rude. Not to mention ignorant. Oh, so you know my name now. Well, you look a lot like someone I knew a long, long time ago. Uh-huh. Yeah, tall, skinny, skeletonized. But that's impossible because that guy died 2 years ago. Killed in the line of duty by his EGF. Tragic. Oh my god. They really, dropped him because he has a girlfriend? Tragic was one word for it. We hadn't really kept up with each other since we had all parted ways, and honestly, I felt a little guilty. He was kind of a jerk, but I guess so was I. I turned to the break room, but Nugget began jumping up and down in irritation. That's all it takes for you to give up? You should be the one fighting for my attention, you know. Huh. Hair flick. But I might be willing to forgive you if you do a little something for me. Nugget held his hand out expectantly. I rolled my eyes and forked over $2, which were promptly used to buy another bag of chips. What? Why'd you give him money? You should be giving me money. Pleasure doing business with you, Timber, old buddy. Don't even know how to read. Not unlike his car, Nugget was rather tiny and filled with a lot of crap, and I was actually kind of happy to see him. Anything new I should know about working the night shift? It's been a while. Just try not to make too much eye contact and keep your fingers to yourself. He has a gun! Everybody get down! Look, man, I work here. They have cameras up here too, so... He laughed. At least he wasn't there to kill me. I wasn't entirely sure if those old security cameras even worked. Oh, this? Don't worry, it's empty, see? He pushed a gun into my face to show me. I really wanted to go home. Besides, I wouldn't kill a former student. Well, not you anyway. Oh, music teacher, right? Despite being underwhelmed that I had forgotten his name, he he explained that he had quit to get back to his natural roots as a hunter, hence the swimsuit and Glock. Guess life comes at you fast. And what of you? I recall you and your compatriots had quite the musical alliance. That didn't work out. Well, sorry to hear it didn't work out, but you'll get 'em next time, sport. He bought his jar of honey and was on his way, leaving me with a moment to think. Nugget, Dexter, and I had been in a band together along with 2 others. My job here was only supposed to be temporary, but life had other plans. So why'd you stop? Things just didn't work out, you know that. Maybe we just weren't as good as we thought. It happens. Oh, right. Well, either way, I loved your music. I remember my cheeks flushing red. Thanks, Ember. Hey, boss, give me an Ursa Special, will ya? Extra large. Sure, you want one for your, son? He chuckled. He's someone's son. Well, oh, right then. I'm gonna call the police. The Ursa Special, Gus's coup de grace. Mystery meat in a cup. I really don't get the appeal, but Gus puts a lot of effort into it. Only the most fresh ingredient, which I had to assume meant roadkill. What? What? Roadkill of what? Roadkill of what? All of you are animals. Fear. Gus always talked about how it was his dream since he was a boy to be a brilliant chef and that the recipe was his mother's. Guess even Gus had to give up on his dream at some point. He was here after all. I mean, Gus is a bear, so it could be anything, really. To his credit, some people really love that stuff, can't get enough. I don't think I would have minded it that much if it wasn't for that god-awful smell. All yours. Thanks, boss. I really don't think it's that bad. Yeah, of course you don't. I've seen some of the stuff you put in your mouth. Okay, I know, rude, but you have to admit the stuff reeks. Not any more than you used to, especially with your cigs. Okay, I deserve that. 2 a.m. and the last of the customers was gone. With any luck, no one else would show up until the end of the shift, and I'd take it easy while Nugget took the moment of peace to read his manga in the back room in peace. I stepped outside to get out of that stuffy store. I lit my cigarette and gazed across the dark lot. You really shouldn't be smoking. I jumped slightly before checking my phone. Ember always had the uncanny ability to know when I was doing something I shouldn't. Even dozens of kilometers away. What, you psychic now? No, you're just literally always smoking. And no, not smoking hot, you goof. I couldn't help but smile. With Nugget and Ember, things started to feel alright again. I began to relax and Ember and I started talking about some new songs we started listening to. Unfortunately, our conversation got interrupted by a tapping on the glass behind me, causing me to jump again. Nugget was holding up 2 garbage bags, the leftover mystery meat. I took out the trash before Nugget and I parted ways for the night. As Nugget drove off, I remember hearing a quiet thudding noise by the dumpsters. I looked over and saw that the top of the dumpster had been removed, but couldn't quite see who or what had gotten into it. I did hear whatever it was slopping on something, loudly at that. At least something enjoyed Gus's mystery meat. I thought about investigating further, but after the encounter with that night's customers, I thought it best to just let sleeping dogs lie, so to speak. As I pulled away from the lot, I took one last glance into the rearview mirror at the dumpsters. I slowed my car down when I noticed movement in the forest behind the dumpster. Whatever it was looked big, tall enough to push the lower tree branches aside as it skulked away full from its mystery meal. I was gonna say it was his friend because his friend is a raccoon. He's going feral. I didn't think much of it at the time, but whatever it was had the courtesy to close the lid of the dumpster after it had finished its feast. For better or worse, the thought of whatever it was soon left my head. The lonely road ahead of me was mesmerizing. I could feel myself starting to drift off. God. I was jolted awake by the noise, followed by the boisterous laughter from the radio host. I didn't know I left the radio on, but I thought that it was a good thing that I did. The hosts were discussing the urban legend surrounding the abandoned cell tower and poor signal around town that had started about 10 years ago during the tower's initial construction. The story goes that if you called a specific number with a request or question, especially around Halloween, you might get a response from the operator. Really, it was just a technical glitch caused by connecting to any invalid number, and most of the time you would just get connected to another random number. This particularly led to a lot of rumors, naturally. Nobody could really explain how it happened or why the tower was abandoned. Some people even claimed that their requests were fulfilled and their questions answered by this mysterious entity, and it became quite a popular Halloween activity. No way, man. I got trauma from a call before, and it stuck with me, and now I just can't. I cannot with phone calls. If you call me and you're not logged into my phone, don't expect me to answer. You're going straight to voicemail. And if you don't leave a voicemail, don't expect me to do anything about it. You don't exist to me. I thought back to the time I had spent fooling around with my friends with this kind of thing. Honestly, I'd completely forgotten it was that late into the year, which left me with a somber feeling, another waste. I somehow made it home without introducing my car to a lovely single oak tree that night, so I suppose I should have been thankful. I'm not sure if it was the nostalgia or a sudden burst of inspiration that overtook me, but I felt compelled to blow the dust off my old guitar and play it despite how tired I felt. I cracked the window open so I could smoke and tried to play a rendition of my part in one of the band's old songs. I was a little embarrassed by how rusty I'd gotten, but I'm sure Ember would still get a kick out of it. Nugget, Dexter, hell, why not Mary and Joe too, I thought. I sent the recordings out, not expecting to hear anything back as I crawled into bed. Feeling satisfied, I fell into a deep sleep that night, probably my last one for a long time. 1 p.m. I woke up to a handful of junk texts from unknown numbers asking for advice, threats, and nonsense. It really was that time of year. I noticed a few tufts of black fur on the floor by the window and kicked myself for forgetting to close the window last night. I considered myself lucky that whatever animal had found its way into my apartment had also found its way out with relatively little trouble. During my breakfast for lunch, I wasn't sure what to do with my new schedule. Normally, I'd play some games to kill time, but my thoughts are interrupted. So what was up with Dexter last night? Shit, I'd completely forgotten to question Nugget about Dex's disappearance. Whoops. I might be a really bad friend. I asked Ember for some advice. Timber, I know you're not on great terms, but you already know what I'm going to say. I knew she was right. Seeing Nugget again rekindled the desire to see the others again. Dex, Mary, hell, even Joe. I tried to give Dexter a call knowing it would go straight to voicemail. Dead or alive, Dex never picks up, I thought. A more direct approach was in order. I used my spare hour to head to Dex's place to see what's up with him, but when I got there wasn't any car in the driveway. I knocked but got no answer either. I sent a text this time. Yo, where the hell are you, dude? Finally skipped town or what? Thanks for leaving me with your shift last night, by the way. Very cool. I just about given up on seeing Dex when I was approached by 2 police officers who asked if I'd seen Dexter. I told them no, and they asked a few more questions but refused to elaborate on what was happening, just to phone in if I saw Dex. Growing up, neither Dexter nor I were strangers to a little trouble, but if the police were getting involved, it could be serious. Maybe he really did skip town. I was resigned to asking Nugget about it when I saw him, and with that I headed to work later that evening. This time I arrived before Nugget to take over Mrs. G's shift, and fortunately the place was equally as empty as it was the other night. When Nugget arrived, he was a lot more approachable than the day before, though he did make fun of my worsening guitar skills. Though I guess it's no wonder Dex rage quit if that's what he had to work with. Question mark. Yeah. And Mary, she knew how to put on a show, but her bass was sloppy. Dex always said so. Now say what you want about that guy, but that guy was talented. Not as gifted as moi, as on the beat, but as lead guitarist go, he was pretty good. Speaking of Dex, I took the opportunity to ask him what he knew about what happened to Dexter. Nugget shrugged dismissively. I don't know, dude. I left early. Dex said he would wrap things up so I could take care of business. More time to slack off, no doubt. And there was nothing weird about him? Give me a break. I'm not his carer. We barely talked ever since you ditched us, you know. I felt a bit annoyed. How was that suddenly on him? I know, Gus is cheap, but surely those security cameras aren't just for show. Oh, right. I won't lie, part of me hoped the cameras didn't work. I spent a lot of time goofing off. Nugget accessed the old computer in the break room, and it eventually chugged to life after some moments of doubt. On the screen were the 3 or 4 cameras around the building, one by the entrance, one inside the store, and the one inside the break room. I watched Nugget open up the footage of Dexter's last day. As the footage sped and the hours went by, I realized how much milling about I did. Years of my life right there. Time really had gotten away from me these past 4 years. The footage finally arrived at the night of Dexter's disappearance. Nugget waved goodbye to him before leaving Dexter alone to close up shop. Dexter looks a bit fidgety and is quick to head to the break room. We watched Dexter vigorously rummage through the back room before picking the small lock on the cabinet and ruffling through the various drawers held inside. Dexter didn't look too impressed by what he found until something seemed to get his attention from outside and the footage was cut out. It took a few seconds for the video to return, and when it did, Dexter's back in the same place, staring up at the camera. Shit, I felt my heart start to pound, and even Nugget was quiet. Why was he just standing there? Did he realize that he was caught in 144p? Dexter resumed his rummaging, seemingly unbothered by the idea that he might be caught, and I felt a bit silly. He couldn't be looking at us. This was just a recording after all. We watched as Dexter went back to shifting through the contents of the locked cabinet. Contained within one of them were dozens of cell phones and what looked like a sign-in book that you would see in a hotel or something. Each row had 3 columns. On the left was a phone number, in the middle a number with no discernible length or pattern. Then on the right several other phone numbers. Each number on the right had various names and initials scribbled on it, in barely legible handwriting. I recognized Nugget's, mine, and even Ember's number repeated several times. Was it some kind of customer-employee logbook? Another drawer held various passports and other legal documents. He then calmly stood up and walked out as if nothing had happened. He didn't even take anything. Move. You need to move. Run, 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 run. A meaty paw grabs the 2 by the shoulder. I'm not paying you to watch videos, you know. Son of a... Gus's boisterous laughter filled the room while Nugget and I recuperated from the shock. Nugget looked like he was about to have a heart attack. And so did I. Forgive me, you too difficult to resist. You were both so fixated. I came to check up on you. Poor signal with my phone, so my call would not go through. I'm sure you've heard and by now seen that Dexter's gotten into something he shouldn't have. Yeah, so he tried to rob the place, huh? Gus nodded. He looked troubled for a moment when he saw me and Nugget's faces, still wrought with fear, but then smiled. Take care of yourselves, Bambi and Gerbil. It's still a long night. And with that, he was gone. What a freak. It was only then that I really took into how large Gus was. His meaty paws could easily mash Nugget into a paste if he wanted to. And, you know, Dex was probably the mystery meat. But Gus wouldn't do that. Sure, he was kind of sketchy and clearly had a lot of skeletons in his closet. But he was a nice guy. We've known him for years. The guy was more interested in peddling dishes from his homeland than anything else. And what are in those dishes? People. And who are the people? Everybody who isn't a carnivore. I mean, Dex is a raccoon. Pretty sure. But Dex also was trying to rob the place and looking into things he shouldn't have, so fair game. Though that mental image of Nugget Paste would probably stick with me for a long time. Cat. Big night planned?
Heh, you could say that. Smirks.
I shivered. The way he licked his chops as he said that didn't sit right. He had already started placing items hidden in his towel onto the counter before producing a crumpled bill from, I don't want to know where. He placed his hand atop mine as I went for it and smiled.
Don't worry, young man, I'll protect you.
Somehow I doubted that.
Every year people go missing and the cops ain't doing anything about it. It's insane, man.
Pot, meat, kettle. But he wasn't wrong. The number of missing persons reports every year around these parts was getting higher and higher, as was the popularity of trying to contact the operator, and I think there's a correlation. It was a silly Halloween game, so it was hard to believe it had much to do with people running away or whatever was going on. It was just an urban legend. I don't think you should be there anymore. What? There are too many creeps around there at night. Go home. What, like now? I'm still on shift and I can't leave Nugget hanging. Would you just forget about Nugget? Please just listen to me. I'm scared something's going to happen to you. You need to leave. I was a bit taken aback. I hadn't seen her this stressed out since the days she's gotten into fights with her father. I tried to lighten the mood. You don't need to worry. Really. They're just stories. Nothing's gonna happen. Just try to calm down. Is she like a dog? A dog and a deer. Besides, if you're that worried about me, you could always come down to visit. Yeah, you're right. And who are you? I couldn't make him out clearly as he was hiding in the shadows of the liquor aisle, but I could tell he was looking at me. He reeked of rum and looked a bit stable on his feet. Unstable. As I feared, beckoned me over. I complied, but I stopped out of arm's reach. I'm pretty sure some of these lines don't belong to them, but whatever. Looking for something? Someone. Does Augustus own this place? You mean Gus, right? Yeah. At least I hope he owns this place. Sorry you just missed him. I heard him swear under his breath before opening one of the bottles on the shelf by his side. I heard him swear under his breath before opening one of the bottles on the shelf by his side. He looked a bit shaky, and I didn't have it in me to deny a sloppy man a drink when he seemed to need it that badly. I didn't really know anything about Gus's past, and my curiosity got the best of me. Are you a friend of his? Old co-worker. Wanted to talk to him about the cell tower. Difficult guy to track down. The cell tower? You know the one. We all laughed back then, you know. He took another big gulp before he continued in his increasingly slurring speech. Came to apologize for how it ended up. Wasn't right. Was a damn good technician. Wasn't his fault. Now with all this operator business, it just wasn't his fault. It started to become hard to understand him after that, but imagining Gus as anything other than the Ursa Mart manager felt weird. I was curious to learn more, but the stranger seemed more interested in talking to himself. I decided to leave him be. I don't like the sound of that guy. Yeah, he was a little intense. Don't you hate it there? Huh? This place, these people talking behind each other's backs, lying to each other. Don't you get sick of it? Why don't we just leave? I remembered having this conversation with her years ago right after graduation. I remember the frustration building up in us both due to forces outside of our control. Truth be told, I wanted to leave, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. It doesn't matter where, as long as we go together. Ember. Did Dex and Nugget really have to put up with that foolishness every night? Sheesh. The night began to draw to a close, and Nugget had somehow convinced Timber to take the trash out for the second night in a row. This night's mystery meat stank even worse than the previous nights. It almost made me retch as I heaved it into the dumpster across the lot. I turned around to see Nugget staring at me from the storefront window, his face pressed up against the glass, and his eyes wide like they were about to bulge out of his skull. I thought he was just messing with me like usual, just acting out to try and get some kind of reaction out of me. That was when a chill suddenly ran down my spine as I made my way back towards the store. Nugget was pointing at me. Whoa, why is he in color now?
Don't turn around.
I heard something moving around the bushes behind me as he gradually picked up the pace, soon breaking into a full sprint before making it back to the safety of the store. I turned to Nugget, expecting him to make some joke, but it never came. If you're messing with me, I'll actually cut you.
Dude, didn't you see it? I thought you could see it at night, man. I think it's still there.
See it or can see? I don't know. I pressed my face up against the glass and strained my eyes to see out into the darkness. Sure enough, there, just on the edge of the lot, I caught a glimpse of someone or something skulking around in the bushes. I could see why Nugget couldn't quite make out the details. It was difficult even for me, but I could see its lanky shape twisted between the trees like some kind of scarecrow. It had what I could only describe as a hand draped around a tree while its pure white eyes glistened like pearls in the moonlight from between the branches. It felt like it was watching us before it abruptly disappeared into the darkness.
Don't you dare say that was a bear or something.
Fine, I won't, but tomorrow's on you, right? I wasn't sure of what I saw. There are plenty of big animals running around the forest. It could have been one of them, that's what I hoped.
Would you expect me to go out there after that? You have to be coked out of your mind.
Maybe next time we both take out the trash. By that point, I wasn't too keen about working the night shift now, either, knowing I might get jumped by some feral animal on my way to deliver the roadkill we serve to customers to its rightful home. I thought, or rather hoped, that would be the end of the night's excitement as Nugget and I cautiously locked up and bid each other farewell. I took one more look around the lot now that I was in mostly complete darkness before shaking the animal from my mind and hitting the road. The drive back felt a lot more lonely than it had the previous night. The street lamps raced past my car and they reminded me of that creature's eyes in the night. I was already feeling the gentle caress of sleep starting to take me, so I turned on the radio to try and keep myself alert. The usual late-night fever dream fare filled my ears until something familiar came on. The last song the band and I wrote together before we broke up. I couldn't believe my ears as waves of nostalgia and confusion washed over me. I only took my eyes off the road for a second to make sure I wasn't hallucinating, but as I looked back up, something darted next to my car. I slammed the brakes, my car slipping and sliding along the asphalt before reaching a halt, and for a split second I saw something. My headlights partly illuminated something on the side of the road, staring right back at me. Something big, body black like a shadow. Before my mind had time to process what it was gone. Was that what was watching us earlier? I lay in the dark staring at the ceiling for a few minutes, untangling the events of the night in my mind. Even though she's probably asleep, I was too anxious to sleep. Hey, do you remember that song the band used to play, the one we wrote together? I could have sworn I heard it on the local radio on my drive home. It was crazy. I didn't know anybody recorded that. I wasn't sure if she'd respond. She had been acting a bit strangely all night and wasn't as talkative as usual. I was concerned, but the events of the night distracted me from it. The last time I had heard that song was when my friends and I were, well, still friends. That was about 5 years ago when we were still together near the end of high school. Dex, Mary, and I were the lead, bass and rhythm guitarists respectively. Nugget on drums and Joe as their kind of makeshift roadie. Me and Joe would write the songs, Dex and Nugget brought themselves, and Mary, the death metal lamb, would capture the souls of their audience, or something like that. There were problems, of course, like Dex's ego, Nugget's attitude, but those were quirks that were quickly forgiven. Things went on like that for a couple of months. We'd have gigs nobody really showed up to, practice in the woods by Gus's, get drunk and argue, but it was still a lot of fun together up until graduation. Things kind of fell apart after a show we put on for Halloween at the cell tower near the convenience store parking lot. That was also the Halloween I met Ember, sort of. A few people had shown up, but it was underwhelming to say the least. To top it off, we had all gotten some pretty nasty anonymous messages about our band. Wait, no, I don't think Dex is a raccoon, I think Dex is a lemur. It was the last straw for Dex. He thought he was better than this and wanted to quit the band since he had better things to do. Mary told him to curb his ego. And of course Nugget chimed in to stoke the flames. An argument broke out, harsh words were shared. People stormed off, and before I knew it, I was alone. It was all stupid, trivial stuff, but at the time it really meant a lot. Out of frustration, I sent a text out to God knows who before playing around with my guitar to get my mind off things. My friends are idiots. I continued to play before I noticed a small animal watching from the bushes. I didn't think much of it, but I did think it was funny that the only one who seemed to appreciate me was a wild animal. A few minutes of this passed before a response came back. You're telling me minds are pricks. We exchanged a few more messages before eventually exchanging real contact information a few days later, and then we eventually met up. Turned out we were in the same school, so it wasn't hard to meet up. I had to admit I was surprised by the quiet girl that showed up. I had seen her around before and thought she was a bit of a loner. Even more surprising was that she actually enjoyed our band's music and wanted to learn to play the guitar. We spent a lot of time together after school between shifts at Ursa Mart, just hanging out and playing music together, even writing a few songs like the one I had heard on the radio. I told her about my dreams to pursue a career in music, and she told me her dream to be a painter, much to the chagrin of her father. She'd often come to me to stress about her home life after her parents' divorce, and I do my best to comfort her. And that's how things were. Days turned into weeks, turned into months, and almost a year. Practice with the band became more and more scarce, further increasing tensions with other friends. Then came Halloween post-graduation. I think I love you. Even though I sent it to the operator, my stomach still felt like it was full of butterflies. I did feel a bit of the load off of my chest. It was silly, but it was nice to confess it externally. I love you too. It made my heart skip a beat, but then I laughed. I didn't have the guts to tell Ember how I felt until a few months later, but at the time, that felt like good practice. That didn't last long, though. Soon after I told Ember how I felt, damn, operator's sad. Operator went, "Oh my god, you love me, I love you too." And then to find out that he confessed to somebody else, damn. Heartbreak. The worst kind. How could you play with the operator's feelings like that, Timber? Soon after I told Ember how I felt, things reached a head between her and her father. She agreed to go to college several towns away to pursue a medical degree. We agreed it was for the best that we stayed friends, but after she was gone, things felt like they'd spiraled out of control in my life. I fell into a depressive state and stopped going to band practice altogether, not that we were getting any gigs regardless. The passion was gone, and with it went Mary and Joe to live with their own lives. Dexter, Nugget, and I tried to make it work with just us three, but it didn't work out. Our part-time jobs at Ursa Mart became our full-time lives, and that was that. I'd still occasionally hear from Ember when she wasn't too busy with school, but when I didn't hear from her for almost a year, I felt like I really screwed up. Out of childish anger, I lashed out to the only place I could think of, the operator. Sometimes I'd get responses, but it never really mattered. After a while, I realized I was complaining to a specter, and my frustration and anger burned out as well. That's why I was so over the moon when Ember reached out again. Frankly, I was both surprised and relieved to hear from her a few weeks ago after so many months, but it was a welcome break in the monotony of my daily life. She didn't seem comfortable talking about what had taken place while she was gone, but I dropped it. I was just happy she was alright and that I could talk to her again. I didn't even question it when I when I maybe should have. I finally drifted off, the sun shining through the blinds and onto my face after my trip down memory lane. It's the operator. The operator went, "I'll be your girlfriend." You don't need Ember, but for you, I will be Ember. Another restless night, 7:30 p.m. I considered calling in sick, but decided to bite the bullet. I couldn't just ditch Nugget again, not after what happened last night. Gus was right. The poor guy would have a heart attack if whatever that thing was showed up again. I freshened up before starting the drive to the Ursa Mart for my third night shift. I gave up on my staticky radio halfway along. I doubted there would be anything on to calm my nerves regardless. I was a bit late, but when I arrived, the parking lot was empty. Nugget wasn't even there. That rat. I stood by the checkout for about an hour, but nobody came. That was actually a bit of a relief. I laughed at my nervousness. I saw some animal and it put me in such a state. It felt almost comical. Well, store's closed. I'm not opening up. I'm going home. I thought I really need to lighten up. I wasn't quite brave enough to take my smoke outside, so I holed up in the break room. After several minutes, my phone broke the solitude. You need to come outside. Dude, where are you? You really need to come outside. This guy is hurt. What are you on about? Where are you? And why is your face colored again? In response, I received a message with an image attached. It was taken from outside past the dumpsters. Sure enough, it was Nugget from the height of the shot, but something wasn't adding up. Don't do anything stupid. I paused. She always had a thing about her, but never like this. This was unnatural. What do you mean by that? This is the operator. The operator's trying to save you. No, it's just, I don't want anything to happen to you in general, I mean. Why would something happen? Because you said you loved me. I know I'm not the girl that you wanted, but I can be. I can be anything for you. There was a pause. Nugget didn't go to work today, right? I never told her that. Psychic or not, this wasn't right. That's when I decided to check the security footage. It was strange enough that Miss G left early, but now Ember acting even more strangely. I need to get to the bottom of this. Everything seemed normal until something got Nugget's attention from outside. Nugget then walked outside, but then doesn't return. Soon after, I saw myself arrive. Clearly, Nugget had shown up to work today, but why would Ember lie? And why did Nugget take so long to ask for help? And why wasn't his car there? I wasn't sure what was going on, but one thing was clear. I was fairly certain the person I was speaking to wasn't Ember. Every instinct, every cell in my body was telling me the same thing. I shouldn't have come to work tonight. My fight or flight was going mental. But I had come to work and Nugget wanted my help. I mustered my courage and stepped out into the abandoned lot, heading into the direction of the dumpsters. I mean, also, like, you got to work, this happens, and to get home, you'd have to go to your car, and at this point, I think it's better to just stay in the store until morning. As I reached the edge of the concrete, I noticed the tire treads from Nugget's car in the mud along with the displaced foliage. I thought Nugget probably wanted my help putting whoever was hurt into his car, at least that's what I hoped. My phone was still going crazy with messages from the fake Ember, but that only strengthened my resolve to help my actual friend. I don't know, I think I'd rather believe fake Ember than go outside. I need more proof than a text and a picture that's not even of said friend. I finally reached the end of the tire treads to find a sight that made my heart stop. Nugget's tiny body lay limp, propped up against his dented car. My fear turned to panic as I ran to my friend's side. This is a joke, right? I touched Nugget's body. It was still warm. He wasn't breathing, but I thought there might still be something I could do. I might not have a license to do CPR, but I'll do it for you, Nugget. I guess. Before I got the chance to reach for my phone, something large wrapped itself around my body. It covered my mouth, muffling my scream. Moments later, I felt something sharp pierce my side. Before I knew what happened, I was suddenly flung to the side with incredible force as something knocks into me and my assailant. I scramble to my feet and start running, the sounds of bloody murder growing distant as I approach the store doors. I locked them behind myself after I got in, hiding away in the break room again. I tried to stop the bleeding with some tissues. Thankfully, the cut wasn't too deep. Whoever interrupted his would-be killer had surely saved my life. The confusingness of the writing. From first person to third person. Then the Ursa Mart front doorbell jingled. I froze. Had I locked the door? Maybe it was Gus like the night before. I turned to look at the security camera feed again and I wish I hadn't. Ah! No! No, 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 no! I saw Ember outside looking directly at me through the screen before her disguise melted away. Ember, eyes like white pearls on the monitor. At this point I knew it could see me. I watched as it calmly unlocked the door and walked through. A feeling of despair washed over me when I realized what I heard before. It was already inside. Instinctively, I switched off the lights in the store in an attempt to hide myself in darkness. It could see me through the cameras, but if there was no light, it might be safe. I could hear it pushing past the stalls on the other side of the wall, trying to pinpoint my location. Please, 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 I love you. I love you so much. I would do anything for you. Please don't kill me. And I knew if I stayed where I was, it would eventually find and kill me, but maybe I could still escape. I silently opened the door and began to crawl my way out, like army style, just as quietly as I could. I stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was in the aisle right across from me, but the path to the open door was clear. I could make it. Or not. My phone answered itself, and the voice on the other end of the line shook me to my core.
Timber.
No. You have the wrong number. This isn't Timber. This is Bambi. I looked up to see the creature's white eyes shining in the darkness right above me as it looked over the aisle at me. The adrenaline pumping through my veins, I pushed against the aisle, toppling it on top of the creature. As it wriggled and writhed, trying to free itself, it slashed and hacked the cheap wooden aisle to bits. I made for the door, not even taking a look back as I ran out. And that's it. I've been driving ever since. It's 6 a.m. now, and I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea, but I can't go back. It knows where I live. It knows my friends. It knows me. Hell, I don't even think this car is safe, to be honest, but I don't have anywhere to go. I don't know what kind of sick game it's playing with me, and I don't know if everyone back home will be safe, but I can't go back yet. I'm hoping when the sun comes up I can get some rest. I'm exhausted. The car shakes, but Timber's more focused on keeping his eyes open as his vision starts to blur, the adrenaline finally wearing off. It's only now sinking in that Nugget's dead. I don't know what happened to Dexter or Ember, but I won't leave them behind. I'll go back for them when the sun's up. It progressively gets darker, dialogue getting distorted with static. It's still trying to call me. I can't get his voice out of my head. Oh God. I can't stop thinking about it. I just need to hold out until the sun comes up. Just a bit longer. So quiet. There's a pigeon. Oh, wait, is that the Mrs. G? No. Hey, boss, give me a chimichanga. A mouse. A moose. A blind moose with a gun. Graffiti in the toilet.
I heard there's a killer.
Ooh. Convenience store uniform. Hamster balls. Sweepy. Turkey. Oh, her husband's missing. Saj. Neutral alert. Work neutral. Work alert. Oh, I think that's everything. This game is fun, but it definitely needs like the UI, the dialogue box. It would do this thing where it like fades into what looks like somebody's gonna be speaking, but then it quickly fades out. Like, and none of the transitions I don't think really work too well because of that. And then the writing needs to be fixed because it's supposed to be, I think pretty consistently it's supposed to be Timber from Timber's point of view, but there's multiple lines of it going into third person and also mixing with the first person point of view. So it's like messy. But other than that, I like it a lot. And there isn't like anything else to fix really. Though I I am incredibly curious about like what happened with Gus and the chameleon. So they worked on the tower, but the tower was connecting with an otherworldly entity. And so I'm assuming because of the cell tower connecting it, whatever happened there, Gus is feels guilty about it, and I don't know what the book of numbers is for. Like maybe he's keeping track of like who's connecting with the operator and stuff. But there wasn't really anything else that happened with that. All we know is that Dex might have gotten like possessed, or no, not possessed. I think the I'm assuming the Wendigo like entity is the operator, so it disguised itself as Dex and tried to get through stuff, but then Gus didn't really show anything about it. No, well, I guess there's a, I don't know if that was Gus though. Whatever was like telling them to run, or maybe, I'm like confused about certain aspects of things, of what is real and what is not. But overall, I assume the cell tower connects with an otherworldly entity, and through that, through interacting with it, you become a target. But is the operator also the one who is eating out of the trash? Why would you need to eat? I mean, maybe Gus is also feeding it, at least trying to get it to stay at bay or something like that. There's a lot to theorize because we don't get a lot of information. We mostly got like the history. So like what the reason, like why the entity is out, but not much else. So yeah, I'm just really curious about Gus. I'm surprised there isn't like concept art of him here. Yeah. Oh, Dexter is a lemur. I only saw the black and white, so I just assumed raccoon. I didn't really look at it properly. But yeah, I'm really curious about like what could be expanded on this story. I'm gonna assume that Timber ends up getting got because of the shaking of the car and stuff. And considering what it can do, like it sees him through the camera, it contacted him through the phone, so it has like a technological thing to it. It can disguise itself. So, and it reaches the bottom thing of branches. This thing is tall and filled with superpowers. There's no way that Timber survives. Unfortunately. Poor Timber. This whole time you were speaking to what you wish was your girlfriend, but it's not. You were being catfished. That's so sad. This man's life, utter suckage, and it just ends like this. Poor thing. But yeah, I hope you folks enjoyed this, and I hope to see you in anything else. Bye.